Picture a world where towering stone structures align perfectly with the stars, where massive carvings appear where no human tool should have reached, and where entire cities vanish without a trace, leaving behind only whispers of their existence. These aren't scenes from a fantasy novel. They're real, unsolved puzzles left behind by ancient civilizations, mysteries so profound that even today, with all our modern technology and knowledge, we still can't fully explain them. From the jaw-dropping precision of the Great Pyramids to the eerie, silent stones of Stonehenge, the past is littered with enigmas that defy logic and challenge everything we think we know about history. What if I told you that some of these ancient wonders weren't just random acts of construction, but deliberate, almost impossible feats of engineering and artistry? Think about it. How did civilizations thousands of years ago, without the tools we take for granted today, move stones heavier than trucks or carve intricate designs into mountainsides with impossible precision? And why? Were they communicating with the gods? Marking celestial events we've only just begun to understand? Or were they leaving behind clues for future generations, clues we're still struggling to decipher? These questions don't just tease our curiosity, they pull us into a deeper mystery about human potential, lost knowledge, and the tantalizing possibility that our ancestors knew far more than we ever realized. That's exactly what we're diving into today. 25 of the most baffling, awe-inspiring, and downright spine-tingling wonders of the ancient world. Some you've heard of, like the Sphinx with its missing nose and unreadable smile, or the Nazca Lines, those gigantic desert drawings only visible from the sky. Others might take you by surprise, hidden cities buried under jungles, strange artifacts that shouldn't exist according to history books, and even ancient batteries that predate modern electricity by thousands of years. Each one of these marvels is a piece of a puzzle that stretches across continents and centuries, and together they paint a picture of a past that's far more mysterious and far more extraordinary than we ever imagined. So if you're ready to step into the unknown, to question what you've been taught, and to uncover secrets that have endured for millennia, then let's begin this journey, because the ancient world has stories to tell and they're waiting for us to listen. Standing at the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza, it's hard not to feel small, not just because of its staggering size, but because even after thousands of years, this ancient marvel still guards secrets we can't crack. Built with over 2 million stone blocks, some weighing as much as 80 tons, the pyramid's precision is mind-boggling. The joints between the stones are so tight you can't slip a credit card between them, and the entire structure aligns with the cardinal directions to within a fraction of a degree. But here's what really sends chills down your spine. Buried deep inside this geometric masterpiece are hidden chambers and shafts that no one fully understands. In the 1990s, a robot sent into one of the pyramid's narrow shafts discovered a small door with copper handles untouched for over 4,000 years. Then, in 2015, thermal scans revealed mysterious voids behind the walls, spaces that shouldn't be there according to every known blueprint of the pyramid. One theory suggests these could be undiscovered burial chambers, perhaps even the true resting place of Pharaoh Khufu, whose sarcophagus has never been found. Others believe these voids might be part of an intricate energy system, pointing to the pyramid's bizarre acoustic properties. Sound waves inside certain chambers resonate at frequencies that some researchers claim could have served a ritual or even technological purpose. Then there's the celestial connection. The pyramid's air shafts align perfectly with specific stars like Orion's belt, leading to wild speculation that the structure wasn't just a tomb but a cosmic map or even a gateway. But here's the frustrating part. Despite our high-tech tools, from ground-penetrating radar to particle physics, we still can't definitively say what these hidden spaces were for. Egypt's government has been hesitant to allow invasive exploration, leaving us with tantalizing clues but no answers. So why does this matter? Because the Great Pyramid isn't just an old pile of rocks, it's a time capsule from a civilization that might have known things we're only beginning to grasp. Every unexplored shaft, every hidden chamber whispers a challenge. You think you're advanced, solve this, and so far we haven't. Buried beneath the waves for 2,000 years, the Antikythera Mechanism might just be the most jaw-dropping artifact ever pulled from the sea. When sponge divers stumbled upon it in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece in 1901, they had no idea they'd found what researchers now call the world's first analog computer. This intricate bronze device, no bigger than a shoebox, is packed with a maze of interlocking gears, some with teeth so tiny they resemble the delicate workings of a modern wristwatch. And here's the kicker, it was built around 80 to 60 BCE, a time when historians thought technology this advanced didn't exist. At first glance, the mechanism looks like a corroded lump of metal, but high-resolution scans reveal a masterpiece of engineering. Its purpose to predict astronomical events with stunning accuracy. Turn the hand crank and the gears simulate the movements of the sun, moon, and planets, even forecasting eclipses decades in advance. One dial tracked the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games, while another calculated the irregular orbit of the moon, accounting for its wobble in a way that wouldn't be matched until the Renaissance. So how did the ancient Greeks or whoever built this possess such precise knowledge of celestial mechanics? Some scholars believe it was the work of geniuses like Hipparchus, a Greek astronomer who mapped the stars with uncanny precision. Others argue it's evidence of lost technology, a relic from a civilization whose understanding of the cosmos far surpassed what history books claim. The mystery deepens when you realize nothing, even remotely this complex, shows up in the archaeological record for another 1,000 years. Then there's the unsettling question of its origins. The shipwreck where it was found carried loot from across the Mediterranean. So was the mechanism Greek, or did it come from somewhere else, perhaps Alexandria's legendary library, where ancient scholars hoarded knowledge later lost to fire? Even today, scientists admit they've only decoded about 2/3 of its functions. The rest remains locked inside those enigmatic gears, a silent challenge from the past. The Antikythera Mechanism isn't just an artifact, it's a haunting reminder that the ancient world might have been far more sophisticated and far more mysterious than we ever imagined. High above the arid plains of southern Peru, etched into the earth with such staggering scale that they only make sense from the sky, the Nazca Lines stretch across the desert like a colossal message meant for the gods, or perhaps for someone else entirely. Created between 500 BCE and 500 CE by the Nazca culture, these geoglyphs aren't just simple drawings. They're a sprawling network of over 800 straight lines, 300 geometric shapes, and 70 biomorphic designs depicting animals like hummingbirds, spiders, and even a humanoid figure nicknamed the astronaut. Some stretch nearly 1,200 feet long, their lines so precise and perfectly proportioned that they defy the limitations of human vision from the ground. How did the Nazca people achieve such precision without the ability to see their work from above? Researchers believe they used simple tools like ropes and stakes to outline the designs, scaling them up from smaller models. But the real mystery lies in why they did it. One popular theory suggests the lines functioned as an astronomical calendar, aligning with solstices and constellations to mark planting seasons or religious ceremonies. Others argue they were sacred pathways walked during rituals to summon water, a precious resource in one of the driest places on Earth. Then there's the more controversial idea that the Nazca Lines were landing strips for ancient aircraft, a theory fueled by their resemblance to modern runways and the fact that some designs resemble figures in spacesuits. But here's what's truly baffling. The desert's windless climate and sun-baked soil have preserved these lines for over 2,000 years, yet no one knows for certain how they were used or why they were made so large. Recent drone surveys have revealed even more glyphs hidden beneath the sand, suggesting the full scope of the Nazca's vision is still emerging. Could these lines be a map to underground water sources, as some hydrologists propose, or were they meant as offerings to deities visible only from the heavens? The Nazca left no written record, so their purpose remains locked in the silence of the desert. What we do know is this: these aren't just ancient doodles. They're a testament to human ingenuity and a riddle wrapped in sand waiting for us to unravel. Imagine holding a book filled with strange, swirling letters that no one alive can read, its pages adorned with drawings of plants that don't seem to exist and astrological diagrams that make no sense to modern eyes. That's exactly what the Voynich Manuscript is, a 240-page mystery from the 15th century, written in a language that has stumped every codebreaker, linguist, and even artificial intelligence for over a century. Named after the rare book dealer Wilfred Voynich, who discovered it in 1912, this enigmatic text is packed with intricate illustrations, bizarre, unidentifiable herbs, naked women bathing in green liquid, and celestial charts that don't match any known astronomical system. But the real puzzle lies in the writing itself, a flowing script of unknown characters, arranged in a way that mimics language but refuses to surrender its meaning. Experts have thrown everything at it. World War II codebreakers, top university linguists, and cutting-edge machine learning algorithms have all taken their shot. Some thought it might be a cipher, a clever disguise for Latin or another known language. Others suspected it was glossolalia, meaningless, automatic writing from a religious trance. But here's the kicker: statistical analysis shows the text follows linguistic patterns, like word repetition and sentence structure, found in real languages. It's not random gibberish, yet despite centuries of effort, not a single word has been definitively decoded. Then there's the art. The manuscript's plants defy botany, with leaves and roots that don't match any known species. Some theorize they could be encoded representations of real flora, while others argue they're pure fantasy. The biological section, with its tubs of green liquid and interconnected tubes, has sparked wild theories, from alchemical experiments to early depictions of microscopic life. And the zodiac pages, they include unfamiliar constellations and a series of nude figures, each holding a star, as if mapping a cosmology lost to time. So is it a hoax? Carbon dating confirms the vellum and ink are genuinely medieval, ruling out a modern forgery. But skeptics still argue it could be an elaborate Renaissance scam crafted to fleece a wealthy patron. Others propose it's a lost medical or herbal guide, maybe even a secret women's compendium of remedies, given its focus on female figures and plant lore. The truth we may never know. The Voynich Manuscript is a locked door to the past, and for now the key remains missing. One thing's certain: until someone cracks its code, this book will keep its secrets and its eerie hold on our imagination. Deep in the jungles of Costa Rica, scattered across riverbeds and hidden beneath centuries of overgrowth, lie hundreds of stone spheres so perfectly round they seem unreal. Known as the Diquís Spheres, these enigmatic artifacts range from the size of a bowling ball to colossal orbs, weighing as much as 16 tons, roughly the equivalent of 2 full-grown elephants. Carved from gabbro, a hard volcanic rock, their surfaces are unnervingly smooth, with precision that rivals modern machining. But here's what makes them truly mysterious. They were crafted between 300 and 1500 CE by a pre-Columbian culture that, as far as we know, had no metal tools, no written language, and no wheel. How did they achieve such geometric perfection? Archaeologists believe the builders hammered the stone with other rocks, then polished them with sand, a painstaking process that could have taken years for a single sphere. Some theories suggest they used fire to heat the stone, making it easier to shape, while others propose they rolled the spheres on wooden logs to achieve their smoothness. But the real puzzle isn't just how they were made, it's why. Many of these spheres were found arranged in precise lines or geometric patterns, often near burial sites or ceremonial centers. Some clusters align with celestial events like solstices, hinting at an astronomical purpose. Others might have marked territorial boundaries or served as symbols of power. Then there's the unsettling twist. When settlers arrived in the 20th century, they disrupted many of these formations, moving spheres for decoration or even blasting them apart in search of hidden gold. Today, only a handful remain in their original positions, leaving us to wonder what grand design they might have once revealed. Were they part of a lost map, a forgotten ritual, or perhaps something even more profound? The Diquís people left no written clues, and modern science can only speculate. These silent stone sentinels guard their secrets as stubbornly as the jungle guards them, reminders of a civilization that mastered the impossible, then vanished without a trace. In the dusty archives of the National Museum of Iraq, tucked away among artifacts from Mesopotamia, sits a cluster of unassuming clay jars, each no taller than a coffee mug. But don't let their modest appearance fool you. These objects, known as the Baghdad batteries, might just rewrite the history of technology. Dating back to the Parthian period around 2,000 years ago, each jar contains an iron rod encased in a copper cylinder, sealed with asphalt or bitumen. Fill one with vinegar or grape juice and something astonishing happens. It generates about 1 volt of electricity. That's enough to produce a tingling sensation, or, as some experiments have shown, even electroplate gold onto silver. So were these ancient batteries. The discovery, made in the 1930s near modern-day Baghdad, sparked fierce debate. Proponents of the battery theory point to the jar's striking resemblance to a basic galvanic cell, the same principle behind modern batteries. Archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig, who first studied them, suggested they might have been used to electroplate jewelry, gilding statues or ornaments with a thin layer of gold. It's a tantalizing idea, especially when you consider that the Parthians were master metalworkers, known for intricate gold-plated artifacts. But here's where it gets murky. No electroplated objects from that era have ever been definitively linked to these jars. Skeptics argue the jars could have held sacred scrolls, their metal rods acting as ritualistic symbols rather than conductors. Others propose they were storage vessels for medicines or perfumes, with the asphalt simply acting as a seal. But then why the precise copper-iron configuration, a combination known to produce electrochemical reactions? Modern reconstructions prove the setup works, yet without contemporary records or additional finds, the mystery persists. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't just what they were, but why this technology seemingly vanished. If these were indeed batteries, why didn't the knowledge spread or evolve? Did war, conquest, or simply the passage of time erase an understanding of electricity centuries before Volta's famous battery? The Baghdad batteries stand as silent witnesses to a potential scientific leap lost to history, a flicker of ancient ingenuity that challenges our assumptions about the past. Were they practical tools, religious objects, or something else entirely? Until new evidence emerges, these humble jars will keep us guessing and wondering what other secrets might still be buried in the sands of time. Beneath the quiet hills of Zhejiang province in China, a labyrinth of underground chambers stretches through the darkness, walls smoothed to a mirror-like finish, stone pillars standing in perfect symmetry, and ceilings so precisely angled they seem to defy the crude tools of their creators. These are the Longyu Caves, 24 hand-carved caverns dating back at least 2,000 years, each one an architectural marvel that shouldn't exist. Discovered in 1992 by a curious villager draining a local pond, these caves hide a mystery as massive as the space they occupy. Over 1 million cubic feet of stone were chiseled away, yet no historical records mention their construction, and not a single pile of debris has ever been found. Step inside and the scale of the achievement becomes dizzying. Some chambers soar 90 feet high, their walls adorned with uniform chisel marks, spaced exactly 20 inches apart, evidence of a meticulous, almost assembly line process. The pillars, positioned at intervals that suggest advanced understanding of load distribution, hold up ceilings carved with intricate parallel grooves, a design that somehow enhances the cave's acoustics. Whisper in one corner and your voice carries with eerie clarity to the far end, a feature that hints at ritual or ceremonial use. But here's what defies logic: this wasn't the work of a small team. Calculations suggest removing that much rock would have required 1,000 laborers working around the clock for 6 years. Where did they sleep? Where's the waste material? And why would a pre-industrial society invest such staggering effort without leaving a single scroll, tool, or even a folk tale about the project? Theories swirl like the dust in the cave's uncharted passages. Some scholars propose they were imperial quarries, though the precision and decorative elements seem at odds with mere utilitarian digging. Others link them to the lost kingdom of Dongu, suggesting the caves served as hidden palaces or military bunkers. Then there's the fringe idea that the grooved ceilings and acoustic properties point to an ancient form of sound-based technology, perhaps used for communication or even energy harnessing. Whatever their purpose, one thing is undeniable: the Longyu caves aren't just holes in the ground. They're a deliberate, engineered wonder, a testament to a forgotten chapter of human ambition. Modern technology has only deepened the enigma. Laser scans reveal that the angle of every wall, the curvature of every pillar, aligns with mathematical precision to prevent collapse, knowledge that shouldn't have existed at the time. Even today, replicating such a feat with hand tools would be a Herculean task. So who were these builders, and what compelled them to carve a cathedral complex beneath the earth, only to vanish without a trace? The caves offer no answers, just echoing silence and the weight of a mystery that has outlasted dynasties, wars, and time itself. Perched high above the city of Cusco, the zigzagging walls of Sacsayhuamán Fortress stand as a defiant challenge to everything we think we know about ancient engineering. These aren't just stacked stones, they're a mind-bending jigsaw puzzle of massive limestone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, fitted together so tightly that not even a sheet of paper can slide between them. The precision is inhuman. Curves flow seamlessly into angles, and irregular polygons interlock with mathematical perfection, all without a drop of mortar to hold them in place. But here's what really stops you in your tracks. These walls were built by the Inca, a culture that, as far as we know, had no written language, no iron tools, and no wheel. So how did they carve, transport, and assemble these megaliths with such uncanny accuracy? One compelling theory lies in the wall's zigzag shape. Scholars note that the fortress has withstood centuries of earthquakes that flattened later Spanish colonial buildings. The Incas might have intentionally designed these serpentine walls to dissipate seismic energy, a technique so advanced that modern engineers still study it. But that doesn't explain the real enigma: how they manipulated the stone itself. Local legends speak of a mythical plant or liquid that could soften rock, allowing builders to mold it like clay before it hardened. While that sounds like fantasy, experiments with organic acids found in Andean plants have shown they can indeed alter stone surfaces, hinting at a lost technology far ahead of its time. Then there's the sheer scale. Some blocks are taller than a 2-story house, their surfaces polished to a reflective sheen. Traditional explanations suggest teams of laborers painstakingly sanded them with harder stones, but the logistics strain belief, especially when you consider the fortress's elevated location. Without beasts of burden or pulleys, how did they haul these monoliths uphill? Indigenous oral histories offer a provocative alternative: tales of giants who shaped the stones with bare hands. While dismissed as myth, it's eerie how these stories persist across cultures, from Peru to Easter Island. Modern laser scans reveal even deeper strangeness. The blocks aren't just stacked, their interconnected shapes distribute weight in a way that suggests an almost fractal understanding of physics. Some corners are rounded, others beveled at exact angles to prevent stress fractures. This isn't primitive masonry, it's a masterclass in structural engineering disguised as a fortress. Was Sacsayhuaman a military stronghold, a ceremonial site, or something else entirely? The Spanish dismantled much of it to build their own city below, leaving us with fragments of a blueprint we're still struggling to decode. Every perfectly fitted stone whispers the same taunt: you call this impossible. Your ancestors did it with their hands, and somehow, against all odds, they did. High on the windswept plains of Bolivia, the ruins of Pumapunku don't just lie in pieces, they scream defiance. Scattered across the plateau like the aftermath of some cosmic explosion, these shattered blocks of granite and andesite aren't just rubble. They're precision-cut puzzles, some weighing over 100 tons, shaped with geometric perfection that would stump modern stonemasons armed with diamond-tipped tools. The most famous are the H-shaped blocks, their notches and grooves fitting together like an ancient Lego set, except no one left us the instruction manual. What makes Pumapunku so unsettling isn't just the precision, but the sheer impossibility of it. These stones were cut with razor-sharp edges, drilled with perfect circular holes, and finished with surfaces so smooth they feel machined. Granite, one of the hardest rocks on Earth, was somehow carved with recessed channels and dovetail joints that suggest a level of engineering unheard of in its time around 500 to 600 CE. And here's the kicker. The Tiwanaku people who built this complex had no known metal tools harder than copper, no wheels, and no written language to blueprint such intricate designs. So how did they pull it off? One theory points to lost technology. Local myths speak of a great fire from the sky that softened stone, allowing artisans to mold it like clay. While that sounds like fantasy, experiments show certain plant acids found in the Andes can chemically alter rock surfaces, making them easier to shape. Another clue lies in the stones themselves. Many have drill marks that suggest the use of tubular tools, a technique requiring rotational speeds and pressure that shouldn't have existed in the ancient world. Then there's the eerie abruptness of Pumapunku's abandonment. Half-carved blocks litter the site as if workers dropped their tools mid-stroke. Geological evidence hints at a cataclysmic flood or seismic event around 1000 CE, but why was nothing rebuilt? Why leave behind a project that must have demanded generations of labor? Some researchers speculate the site was a portal or celestial observatory. Its alignment with solstices and cardinal points too deliberate for mere temple grounds. Others argue it was a manufacturing hub, its precision-cut blocks meant to be transported elsewhere, except no other site in the Americas shares this masonry style. Modern attempts to replicate Pumapunku's craftsmanship with period-accurate tools end in frustration. Even today, with computer-guided saws, creating these exact angles and seamless joints would be a formidable challenge. The ruins stand as a silent rebuke to our assumptions about ancient technology and a haunting reminder that some blueprints may have been lost to time. Whoever built Pumapunku didn't just carve stone, they left behind a riddle wrapped in granite, demanding we question not just how they did it, but why we still can't. Buried beneath the sun-baked hills of southeastern Turkey, Göbekli Tepe shatters everything we thought we knew about the dawn of civilization. This sprawling complex of circular enclosures, adorned with towering limestone pillars carved with intricate animal reliefs, isn't just old, it's impossibly old. Carbon dating places its construction at around 9600 BCE, a staggering 7 millennia before the Great Pyramids and 6,000 years before the invention of writing. But here's what defies logic. According to mainstream history, the people who built this masterpiece were hunter-gatherers, nomads who hadn't yet discovered agriculture or permanent settlements. So how did they quarry, transport, and erect 20-ton stones? And why would they bury their own creation under thousands of tons of earth? The pillars themselves are a gallery of ancient artistry. Fierce lions, coiled snakes, and towering cranes emerge from the stone, their details so vivid they seem to breathe. Some pillars stretch 18 feet high, T-shaped like abstract human forms with arms and belts carved in relief. The sophistication is mind-bending. These aren't crude scratchings, they're the work of master sculptors who understood anatomy, perspective, and symbolism. Yet there's no evidence of nearby quarries or tools hard enough to shape limestone with such precision. Even more perplexing, the site shows no signs of habitation, no houses, no trash heaps, no graves. Göbekli Tepe wasn't a village, it was something else entirely, a temple, a ceremonial hub, or perhaps a cosmic clock. Then there's the deliberate burial. Around 8000 BCE, someone methodically filled in the entire complex, stacking rubble and soil with such care that the structures remained intact beneath. Was this an act of preservation, hiding sacred ground from invaders or time itself? Or was it a ritual closing like sealing a tomb? The implications ripple through history. If hunter-gatherers could organize labor on this scale, requiring hundreds of workers and months of coordinated effort, then agriculture might not have birthed civilization after all. Maybe it was the other way around. Maybe awe-inspiring projects like Göbekli Tepe forced humans to settle down, to invent farming to feed the builders. The site's alignment with the stars adds another layer of mystery. Some pillars seem to map constellations as they appeared 12,000 years ago, while others frame the rising of Sirius or the solstice sun. Were these the world's first astronomers tracking celestial cycles for ritual or survival? And why do so many carvings depict predators and prey locked in eternal struggle, as if encoding a forgotten myth or warning? Göbekli Tepe doesn't just rewrite history, it tears up the textbook. Its very existence suggests that complex society, art, and spirituality emerged long before we imagined, in a world we're only beginning to understand. Every unearthed pillar whispers the same unnerving question: what else have we gotten wrong? And with 95% of the site still buried, the answers, if they come, might upend everything. On the most remote inhabited island on Earth, the towering stone faces of Rapa Nui stand as silent witnesses to one of archaeology's most heated debates. How did the Rapa Nui people, with no wheels, no metal tools, and no large animals to help them, move these colossal moai statues, some weighing up to 80 tons, across miles of rugged terrain to their final resting places along the coast? For decades, researchers assumed the answer was simple. They must have dragged them horizontally on wooden sleds or log rollers. But when experiments tried replicating this method, the results were disastrous. The statues' bases gouged deep trenches in the soil, and the friction often cracked the volcanic tuff before the moai could reach their destinations. Then came the revelation that turned everything upside down, literally. In 2012, archaeologists Terry Hunt and Carl Lipo proposed a radical theory: the moai didn't slide or roll. They walked by attaching ropes to the statues' carved foreheads and bases. Teams of laborers could have rocked them back and forth in a motion that made the massive figures appear to stride forward, inch by inch. This walking method, captured in a viral National Geographic experiment, proved eerily efficient, requiring as few as 18 people to maneuver a 10-ton replica. The island's oral traditions even hint at this technique, with legends describing the moai moving with the rhythm of a dance. But here's where the mystery deepens. If the Rapa Nui had mastered this ingenious method, why did their civilization collapse? The answer lies in the island's tragic ecology. To transport the moai, they needed vast quantities of rope and wooden beams, which led to rampant deforestation. By the time European explorers arrived in the 18th century, the island was a barren wasteland, its once lush palm forests reduced to stumps. Without trees to anchor the soil, erosion crippled agriculture, and without timber to build fishing canoes, starvation followed. The same ingenuity that birthed the moai may have doomed their creators, yet even this explanation doesn't account for the statue's eerie fate. Centuries after their erection, nearly every moai was violently toppled, many face down with their red stone hats or pukao shattered beside them. Was this an act of rebellion against the ruling class who ordered their construction, a spiritual rejection of the old gods, or simply the collateral damage of clan wars over dwindling resources? The truth might be stranger than fiction. Some researchers suggest the moai weren't just symbols of power, but literal conduits for mana or spiritual energy. Toppling them may have been a way to drain rival strength. Today, the moai stand restored, their hollow eyes fixed on an ocean they once crossed. They're more than statues, they're a cautionary tale of human ambition, a testament to what happens when culture and ecology collide. The real wonder isn't just how they moved, but why their journey ended so abruptly, leaving us to piece together the footsteps of a civilization that walked the line between genius and hubris. Off the coast of Japan's westernmost island, Yonaguni, lies what could be the most controversial underwater discovery of our time, a massive, stepped structure stretching 200 feet into the abyss, its flat surfaces and sharp angles defying the randomness of nature. Known as the Yonaguni Monument, this enigmatic formation has divided experts since its discovery by a diver in 1986. Is it the ruins of a 10,000-year-old city swallowed by rising seas at the end of the last ice age? Or just an extraordinarily geometrical quirk of sandstone erosion? The answer could rewrite the history of human civilization if we can prove it's man-made. Marine geologists point to the area's active seismic activity, arguing that tectonic shifts have fractured the bedrock into planes that appear artificial. They note that the sandstone here naturally breaks along straight lines, creating what look like terraces and staircases. But then there's the other side, the precise 90-degree angles, the twin pillars standing like gateways, and the circular depression resembling a ritual altar. Professor Masaki Kimura, a marine seismologist who studied the site for decades, insists these features are no accident. He's identified what he calls carved channels, drainage systems, and even a humanoid face etched into the rock, evidence, he claims, of a lost culture contemporary with Göbekli Tepe. Yet skepticism runs deep. Critics argue that nature loves symmetry. Two-wave action and currents can sculpt stone into uncanny shapes, like the Giant's Causeway or Utah's Slot Canyons. But here's what keeps the mystery alive. Near the monument, divers have found what look like tool marks and a stone tablet covered in undeciphered symbols. Even more compelling, similar submerged structures dot the surrounding seabed, suggesting a network, not just a one-off anomaly. The stakes are higher than a simple academic debate. If Yonaguni is artificial, it implies a sophisticated society thrived here when sea levels were nearly 400 feet lower, a time mainstream history claims humans were barely emerging from hunter-gatherer lifestyles. Could this be the elusive Mu, the Pacific counterpart to Atlantis, or perhaps a forgotten outpost of an ancient maritime culture, until someone uncovers definitive proof, a tool, an inscription, a hearth? The monument will remain a Rorschach test for archaeologists. Dive down there and you'll see what you want to see, a geological marvel or the bones of a drowned world. Either way, the ocean guards its secrets well. Stretching across the windswept coast of Brittany, France, the Karnak stones form a staggering megalithic puzzle, 3,000 weathered monoliths arranged in eerie, precise rows that vanish into the horizon. Unlike the clustered circles of Stonehenge, these stones march single file for nearly 4 miles, some standing tall as houses while others crouch like silent sentinels. Dating back over 6,000 years, their sheer number and linear discipline suggest a purpose far beyond random ritual. But what could compel Neolithic builders to invest generations of labor into such a mind-bending project? The answer might be written in the stars or perhaps trembling beneath the earth. One theory points skyward. Certain alignments mirror the moon's extreme positions during its 18.6-year cycle, particularly the lunar standstill, a rare event when the moon pauses at its furthest celestial reach. Intriguingly, the tallest stones cluster where the moon would have risen or set during these moments, hinting at an ancient observatory. even more compelling. A recent study revealed that the rows aren't perfectly straight. Their subtle curves mirror the shifting lunar path, acting as a colossal stone calendar tracking celestial rhythms critical for planting or ceremonies. But Karnak's secrets might not stop at astronomy. Geologists note that the region sits atop a major fault line, and experiments show that the stone's arrangement could detect seismic activity. When exposed to low-frequency vibrations like those preceding earthquakes, the megaliths resonate at specific frequencies, possibly serving as an early warning system. Imagine standing stones humming like tuning forks before the ground shook, giving communities precious minutes to flee. This dual-purpose cosmic clock and Earth's whisper would make Karnak one of humanity's earliest multipurpose technologies. Yet local folklore spins a darker tale. Medieval legends claim the stones were Roman soldiers turned to rock by the wizard Merlin, a story likely invented to explain the inexplicable. But beneath the myth lies a kernel of truth. The builder's identity remains lost. Unlike Egypt's pharaohs or Inca emperors, no tombs or tools have been found to name them. The stones themselves are the only record, their surfaces bare of carvings or clues. Today, visitors aren't allowed to walk among the main alignments, a protective measure that only deepens their mystique. From afar, the stones seem to pulse with silent energy, their rows dissolving into the mist like a mirage. Were they temples without walls, ancestral borders? Or something we haven't even conceived? Karnak refuses to say. It stands as a riddle in plain sight, its creators long gone but their ambition etched immortally into the landscape. Buried beneath the rolling hills of Cappadocia, Turkey, lies a subterranean labyrinth so vast it could swallow an entire town. Derinkuyu, an ancient underground city plunging 18 stories deep with space for 20,000 people. Unlike any other structure from antiquity, this wasn't just a hidden bunker or a simple cave network. It was a fully functional metropolis beneath the earth, complete with ventilation shafts, stables, wineries, chapels, and even a complex system of rolling stone doors designed to seal off invaders. But who built this astonishing refuge, and why would an entire civilization choose to live in perpetual darkness? The answer might lie in the very rock itself and the desperation of a people under siege. Cappadocia's soft volcanic tuff made it possible to carve such a city, but the motivation runs deeper. Most scholars point to the early Christians of the Byzantine era, around the 7th or 8th century, who allegedly dug Derinkuyu as a haven from Arab raids. The corridors are narrow, forcing attackers to move single file, while the massive stone doors could be rolled shut from the inside, effectively trapping enemies in dead-end tunnels. Hidden wells tapped into underground rivers, ensuring water supply during long sieges, while ingenious ventilation shafts disguised as natural fissures kept the air fresh, even at the lowest levels. Yet survival wasn't the only reason to vanish underground. Some theories suggest Derinkuyu served as a year-round climate-controlled habitat. In a region where summer temperatures soar above 100 degrees and winter plunges below freezing, the underground city maintained a steady 60 degrees Fahrenheit, perfect for storing food, housing livestock, and escaping extreme weather. But here's where it gets eerie. Derinkuyu isn't alone. Over 200 underground cities riddle Cappadocia, many connected by miles of tunnels. Was this a secret network, a subterranean Silk Road for refugees and rebels? Or something even more enigmatic? Local legends whisper of older origins long before the Christians. Hittite artifacts found in some chambers hint that Derinkuyu might have been expanded rather than built from scratch, its roots stretching back 3,000 years. Could this have been a sanctuary for cults worshipping chthonic gods, or a hiding place during apocalyptic prophecies? The absence of written records leaves us grasping at shadows. What's undeniable is the sheer audacity of the project. Digging without modern tools, the builders removed an estimated 5 million cubic feet of rock, enough to fill 200 Olympic swimming pools. Every chisel mark, every strategically placed stairwell speaks to a society that valued invisibility over grandeur. Today, only 10% of Derinkuyu is open to explorers, leaving the rest shrouded in mystery. Were these tunnels purely practical, or did they harbor secrets we've yet to uncover? The walls don't answer. They just wait, silent and patient as they have for millennia. Perched atop Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, the ruins of Baalbek aren't just another Roman temple complex, they're home to the most massive stone blocks ever handled by human hands. The podium beneath the Temple of Jupiter holds 3 monoliths known as the Trilithon, each weighing an astonishing 800 tons, but that's nothing compared to a 4th block, abandoned in a nearby quarry and still partially attached to the bedrock. This colossal slab, nicknamed the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, tips the scales at over 1,600 tons, equivalent to 3 fully loaded Boeing 747 jets. The question isn't just how the Romans moved these megaliths, but why they would even attempt such a feat when even modern cranes would struggle with half that weight. Archaeologists have long assumed the Romans used a system of ramps, ropes, and wooden rollers, but experiments with smaller stones reveal a glaring problem. Wood splinters under such pressure, and even the most meticulously built ramps would collapse under these behemoths. Could the builders have employed a technique now lost to history? Local folklore offers a tantalizing, if controversial, clue. Ancient texts, including mentions by Arabic chroniclers and even early Christian scholars, describe a method called sound levitation, where priests or engineers used harmonic frequencies to make stones weightless. While dismissed as myth, recent experiments with acoustic standing waves have shown that certain vibrations can reduce friction, making heavy objects easier to manipulate. Was Baalbek an ancient construction site humming with resonant chants or tuned instruments? Then there's the enigma of the quarry itself. The Stone of the Pregnant Woman lies nearly a mile from the temple complex with no clear path between them. How did the Romans plan to transport it without leaving drag marks or crushing the terrain? One radical theory suggests they didn't. Some researchers, like engineer Jean-Pierre Adam, propose the blocks were never meant to be moved. Instead, they might have been carved in place as part of a failed attempt to expand the temple, a project abandoned when the logistics proved impossible. Yet this doesn't explain the Trilithon stones, which were successfully lifted and fitted into the podium with joints so precise they've withstood earthquakes for 2,000 years. The Romans left no blueprints, but their successors might hold a clue. Ottoman records mention a massive bronze crane called the Trispastos, capable of lifting 15 tons, a fraction of Baalbek's megaliths. But what if multiple cranes worked in unison? Or perhaps the builders used counterweight systems similar to medieval trebuchets, leveraging physics to multiply their strength. Even so, the precision remains baffling. These stones weren't just dropped into place, they were maneuvered with millimeter accuracy, suggesting a level of engineering sophistication rivaling modern skyscraper construction. Baalbek's mystery isn't just about weight, it's about ambition. Why invest such Herculean effort in a remote provincial temple? Some speculate the site was sacred long before the Romans, possibly built atop a Phoenician holy ground where giants were said to walk. Others argue the temple's alignment with solstice sunrises points to a celestial purpose, its massive stones acting as anchors between earth and sky. Whatever the truth, Baalbek stands as a silent dare to history. Explain me if you can, and so far we can't. Among the fragile parchment fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls, one artifact stands out not for its religious wisdom, but for its cryptic promise of unimaginable wealth, the Copper Scroll. Unlike its companions inscribed on parchment or papyrus, this 2,000-year-old document was etched onto thin sheets of copper, a material so durable it suggests the contents were meant to last millennia. And what it contains reads like a biblical treasure map, 63 precise locations where staggering quantities of gold, silver, and sacred relics were supposedly hidden across ancient Judea. The sums are mind-bending: over 4,600 talents of silver and nearly 1,300 talents of gold, worth billions in today's currency. But here's the haunting twist: despite decades of searching, not a single cache has been definitively found. Was this scroll a literal inventory of lost riches, or something far more mysterious? The Copper Scroll's uniqueness begins with its very existence. While other Dead Sea Scrolls contain religious texts or community rules, this one reads like a dry accounting ledger, yet its language is anything but straightforward. The directions are maddeningly vague, referencing landmarks like the ruin in the Valley of Achor or the cistern opposite the Eastern Gate. Some locations mention buildings that vanished centuries ago, while others refer to geological features that could have shifted over 2,000 years of erosion and earthquakes. Even more perplexing is the scroll's origin. Most Dead Sea Scrolls are linked to the Essenes, a Jewish sect, but the Copper Scroll style suggests it might have been written by temple priests fleeing the Roman destruction of Jerusalem in 70 CE, hiding not just wealth, but perhaps the very treasures looted from Herod's temple. Modern treasure hunters have followed the clues with high-tech tools, from ground-penetrating radar to satellite imaging. In the 1960s, an archaeologist named John Allegro led an expedition to a cave near Jericho mentioned in the scroll, only to find empty tunnels. Others have dug near the Jerusalem suburb of Beit Zayit, where the scroll hints at a stash buried 3 cubits underground, yet the earth yielded nothing. Skeptics argue the treasures were likely plundered by Romans or early settlers long ago, but believers point to an eerie detail. The scroll lists 64 locations, but the final entry is partially obscured by corrosion. Could the last clue, the key to all others, still be waiting to be revealed? Then there's the possibility that the treasure wasn't material at all. Some scholars suggest the scroll's metals might represent symbolic weights, perhaps tied to mystical traditions or even the dimensions of the temple itself. The copper medium adds to this enigma. Unlike perishable parchment, it was made to endure, as if the true value lay in the message, not the metal. Whether literal or allegorical, the Copper Scroll remains a tantalizing paradox. It's the only Dead Sea Scroll that promises worldly riches instead of spiritual ones, yet its treasures are just as elusive as divine wisdom. Every corroded line whispers the same maddening question: was this meant to be found, or was it meant to be lost forever? Deep within the temple complex of Dendera, Egypt, a series of enigmatic carvings adorn the walls. One in particular has sparked debates that bridge the gap between archaeology and science fiction. Known as the Dendera light, this relief depicts what looks uncannily like a modern light bulb. A glass-like oval supported by a stand with a sinuous snake-like filament winding through its center. The entire ensemble is held aloft by a figure who appears to be tending to the device, while a cable extends into a small box nearby. To the untrained eye, it's almost impossible to ignore the resemblance to electric illumination. But could the ancient Egyptians really have harnessed electricity? Or is this a case of modern imaginations running wild? Mainstream Egyptologists offer a far less fantastical explanation. The carving, they argue, is part of a larger religious tableau symbolizing the creation myth, specifically the emergence of a snake from a lotus flower, representing the sun god's journey through the underworld. The filament is interpreted as a serpent deity, often associated with divine energy, while the bulb itself mirrors the shape of a lotus pod, a sacred motif linked to rebirth. Even the cable is said to be a ceremonial staff or rope used in ritual contexts. This interpretation fits neatly within the well-documented symbolism of Egyptian art, where objects rarely represented literal technology but were instead dense with spiritual meaning. Yet the alternative theory refuses to fade. Proponents of the ancient tech hypothesis point to experimental and controversial reconstructions of the Dendera relief's design. In 2006, engineers built a working model using an evacuated glass bulb and a copper filament shaped like the snake, and when electrified, it cast a faint glow. While far from practical lighting, the demonstration raised eyebrows. Even more tantalizing are claims that the Baghdad battery, those enigmatic jars capable of producing a small electric current, could have powered such devices, though no physical evidence links the two. Supporters also highlight ancient texts describing sunlight in the night, a phrase some interpret as evidence of artificial illumination. But here's the catch: if the Egyptians had electric lighting, where are the remnants? No wires, no bulbs, no power sources have ever been found in the archaeological record. And while the temple's inner chambers would indeed have been pitch black without illumination, soot stains from torches and oil lamps are plentiful, whereas no traces of an electrical infrastructure exist. The absence is deafening. Perhaps the true power of the dendrolite lies in its ambiguity. Whether it's a sacred metaphor or a lost technological blueprint, it forces us to confront how easily our modern lens can distort the past. The ancients didn't need electricity to create wonders. Their genius operated on a different frequency, one where myth and meaning could shine as brightly as any bulb. And that, in itself, is illuminating. In the barren Taklamakan desert of western China, a discovery so unsettling emerged that it forced historians to rewrite entire chapters of ancient trade and migration: the Tarim mummies. These aren't just preserved bodies, they're time capsules from a forgotten world, their fair skin, light hair, and Europoid features frozen in startling contrast to the region's modern population. Dating back as early as 2000 BCE, these mummies wear brightly colored woolen garments, tall pointed hats reminiscent of wizards, and intricate tattoos swirling across their skin. But here's what upends conventional narratives. Genetic testing reveals they weren't East Asian at all. They were Indo-European, ancestors of the Tucharians, a people whose language and culture once bridged the vast expanse between Europe and China. The implications ripple across continents. How did these fair-haired travelers end up thousands of miles east of their ancestral homelands? The artifacts buried with them offer clues: a chariot with spoked wheels identical to those used by ancient Celts, bronze tools matching designs from the Black Sea region, and even traces of ephedra, a medicinal herb traded along routes that later became the Silk Road. Most astonishingly, their textiles woven with patterns nearly identical to those found in Celtic burials suggest a cultural exchange spanning half the globe. These weren't isolated nomads. They were key players in a Bronze Age trade network that connected the wheat fields of Mesopotamia to the jade markets of China centuries before historians believed such exchanges were possible. Then there's the mystery of their disappearance. By the time the Han dynasty rose to power around 200 BCE, the Tucharians had vanished, assimilated or displaced by the eastward migration of Turkic and Mongol peoples. Yet their legacy lingers in eerie ways. Ancient Chinese texts speak of the Yuezhi, a fair-skinned tribe driven west by the Xiongnu, possibly the last echoes of the Tarim people. Even today, Uyghur communities in Xinjiang carry trace amounts of European DNA, genetic whispers of this lost civilization. But the real controversy lies in what the mummies don't show. Despite their Western origins, they adopted local customs buried in boat-shaped coffins in a desert where no ship sailed, a possible nod to the Indo-European myth of the afterlife as a voyage. Their tattoos, swirling in abstract spirals, mirror designs from Siberia to the Balkans, yet their language, deciphered from surviving manuscripts, shows no trace of Chinese influence. They were cultural chameleons, adapting without losing their identity. The Tarim mummies force us to confront a radically interconnected ancient world, one where blonde traders bartered under the shadow of the Himalayas millennia before Marco Polo. Their preserved faces, frozen in time, seem to stare back at us with a challenge. History is never as simple as borders on a map. the past was as diverse as the present and far more surprising than we dare imagine. Rising from a rural Georgia hillside like a modern-day Stonehenge, the Georgia Guidestone stood as one of America's most cryptic and controversial monuments until they didn't. Erected in 1980, this 19-foot-tall granite structure bore 10 commandments engraved in 8 languages, guidelines for rebuilding civilization after an unspecified catastrophe. But unlike ancient relics shrouded in time, the Guidestone's origins were deliberately obscured from the start, their creators hidden behind layers of intrigue, and their sudden destruction only deepened the mystery. The stone's message was stark. Etched into the polished surfaces were directives like maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature and guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Some read them as pragmatic advice for sustainability. Others saw dystopian overtones of population control. The anonymity of the project's sponsor, a man using the pseudonym R.C. Christian, fueled conspiracy theories. Who was he? A secret society member, a futurist preparing for collapse? Even the stonemason who carved the slabs claimed he never met Christian in person, just an intermediary with cash and a vision. Then came the bombshell. In 2022, just as interest in the Guidestones reached a fever pitch, unknown assailants detonated explosives at the site, reducing part of the monument to rubble. Authorities cited safety concerns and demolished the rest days later, erasing the structure from the landscape but amplifying its legend. The timing was suspiciously convenient for skeptics. Why destroy a monument right as it gained viral attention? Was this an act of vigilantism against its divisive message, or something more calculated? The stone's eerie precision added to their mystique. A line to track the sun's solstices and equinoxes, with a hole drilled to frame the North Star, their design mirrored ancient megalithic calendars. Yet their content was chillingly modern, blending environmentalism with transhumanist ideals. For decades, visitors left offerings and graffiti, some treating it as a pilgrimage site, others as a target for vandalism. Now, only fragments remain both physically and metaphorically. The Guidestone's true purpose may forever be debated, but their legacy is clear. They forced us to confront uncomfortable questions about survival, power, and who gets to write the rules for the future. In a world flirting with catastrophe, were they a warning, a blueprint, or simply a Rorschach test for our darkest fears? The stones are silent now, the questions aren't. Scattered across the remote highlands of Laos, the plain of jars stretches for miles like a surreal graveyard from another age. Thousands of massive stone vessels, some as tall as 10 feet, resting in clusters beneath the jungle canopy. These aren't just weathered boulders. Their hollowed-out interiors have cradled human remains for over 2,000 years, whispering secrets of a civilization that vanished without leaving behind written records or even a name. But the real enigma isn't just their purpose, it's how these megalithic jars, some weighing several tons, ended up here in the first place, far from any known quarry, in a landscape where modern history has layered tragedy atop ancient mystery. The leading theory ties the jars to Iron Age burial rites. Excavations reveal bones, teeth, and grave goods like beads and tools nestled inside, suggesting they functioned as communal tombs or sites for secondary burial, where bodies were exposed to the elements before bones were collected in the jars. Some vessels still contain ceramic urns, hinting at layered funerary practices that might have spanned generations. But the logistics baffle archaeologists. The sandstone used for many jars comes from quarries miles away, raising the question of how prehistoric people transported them without wheels or pack animals. Local legends offer poetic explanations, stories of giants who brewed rice wine in the jars to celebrate victories, or of a mythical king who needed vessels to hold liquor for his thirsty army. Yet the Plain of Jars holds a darker, more recent layer of secrets. During the Vietnam War, American bombers carpeted this region with millions of cluster munitions, turning the area into one of the most heavily bombed places on Earth. Unexploded ordnance still litters the ground, rendering vast sections of the site inaccessible to researchers and leaving countless jars unstudied. The irony is haunting. Ancient burial vessels now surrounded by remnants of modern warfare, their secrets guarded not by time but by the lethal debris of contemporary conflict. Adding to the puzzle, the jars aren't alone. Nearby caves show evidence of cremations while carved stone discs, some etched with human figures or concentric circles, lie buried beneath the soil, possibly marking graves or serving as ritual objects. Satellite imagery has even revealed previously unknown jar sites deep in the jungle, suggesting the full scale of this funerary landscape is still emerging. Who were these people? Why did they invest such effort in stone sentinels for the dead? And what catastrophic event or slow unraveling led to their disappearance? The plane of jars refuses to yield easy answers. Instead, it stands as a silent testament to the universality of grief and remembrance, where ancient mourners and modern explorers are united by the same unshakable urge to leave a mark that outlasts the body and to whisper across millennia, "We were here." Buried deep in the humid jungles of Colombia's Tolima region, tiny gold figurines no larger than a thumb hold a secret that sparked decades of debate. At first glance, they look uncannily like modern fighter jets' sleek delta wings, vertical tail fins, even what appears to be a cockpit canopy. But here's the catch. These artifacts date back over 1,000 years, crafted by a pre-Columbian culture that, according to mainstream history, had never seen, let alone built, a flying machine. So what exactly did the ancient artisans of Tolima model these enigmatic objects after? The answer depends on who you ask, and the divide between scholarly consensus and fringe theory has never been wider. To archaeologists, the figurines are stylized representations of insects or birds, their exaggerated features reflecting sacred symbolism rather than technological blueprints. The wings might depict the flat, elongated bodies of stingless bees native to the region, while the cockpit could symbolize a shaman's transformative visions during hallucinogenic rituals. After all, the Tolima people revered nature's creatures, often blending animal traits in their art. But for proponents of the ancient astronaut theory, these explanations fall flat. They point to the figurines' precise symmetry, streamlined contours, and even what resemble aerodynamic stabilizers features that seem far too advanced for random artistic flourish. The controversy intensified when aeronautical engineers entered the conversation. In the 1990s, German researchers constructed scaled-up models of the figurines and tested them in wind tunnels. Astonishingly, the shapes performed like functional aircraft, generating lift with minimal drag when angled correctly. Some even theorized the designs resembled supersonic jets with their swept-back wings and tapered noses. Skeptics counter that nature has produced countless aerodynamic forms, from maple seeds to manta rays long before humans took flight. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't about the figurines' design, but their inspiration. Did the Tolima people witness something extraordinary, a celestial phenomenon mistaken for a flying machine, or an encounter modern science can't yet explain? Or were they simply masters of abstract art, their creations misinterpreted through our technology-obsessed lens? The gold remains silent, its secrets locked behind museum glass. But one thing's certain, these tiny artifacts prove that the line between myth and possibility is as thin as the foil they're hammered from. High in the rocky cliffs of Mali's Bandiagara escarpment, the Dogon people have guarded a secret that defies the boundaries of time and knowledge. For centuries, this isolated tribe has spoken of a companion star to Sirius, a dense, invisible, weighty star they call Potolo, which they describe as the smallest thing in the universe yet impossibly heavy. Here's the jaw-dropping part. Modern astronomy only confirmed Sirius B, a white dwarf star fitting that exact description, in the 19th century. So how did a pre-industrial culture with no telescopes or written records possess such precise astronomical knowledge? The answer depends on who you ask, and the debate splits wide open between two explosive possibilities: extraterrestrial contact or a tragic case of colonial contamination. The Dogon's cosmology is staggeringly specific. Their oral traditions, passed down through generations of priests, describe Sirius B's elliptical 50-year orbit around Sirius A, a fact verified by astronomers in the 1920s. Even more eerily, they speak of a third star in the system, Emya, which scientists have yet to confirm but speculate could be a hypothesized Sirius C. The tribe's initiation rituals include intricate sand drawings mirroring Sirius's celestial dance, with accuracy that shouldn't have been possible without advanced optics. When French anthropologist Marcel Graillot first recorded these details in the 1930s, the scientific community was stunned. Had the Dogon preserved an ancient revelation, one that predated Western discovery by millennia? Skeptics argue this knowledge was likely implanted during colonial encounters. European star charts and astronomy texts circulated widely by the late 19th century, and missionaries or traders could have introduced the concept of Sirius B to the Dogon, who then wove it into their existing myths. Some point to Graillot's own methods, suggesting he may have inadvertently led his informants with leading questions. Yet defenders of the Dogon's independent knowledge counter that their descriptions go far beyond vague references. They include technical details about Sirius B's composition and orbit that weren't fully understood in the West until decades later. Then there's the wild card, the Nommo. Dogon mythology describes these amphibious, star-born beings who descended from Sirius in a spinning arc, bringing wisdom to humanity. To ancient astronaut theorists, the Nommo sound suspiciously like extraterrestrial visitors who shared advanced astronomy. Mainstream scholars dismiss this as symbolic storytelling, but the parallels are hard to ignore. Even Carl Sagan conceded that while cultural contamination was probable, the Dogon case remained one of history's most intriguing anomalies. The truth may lie tangled in the cliffs of Bandiagara. Perhaps the Dogon inherited fragments of knowledge from an older, now lost civilization, one that somehow observed Sirius B's influence on its brighter sibling. Or maybe their myths coincidentally aligned with scientific reality, a one-in-a-million guess. Either way, their story forces us to confront a humbling idea, that the cosmos might hold secrets older than telescopes, and that wisdom doesn't always wear the clothes of modernity. The stars whisper to those who listen, and the Dogon, it seems, heard something we're still straining to understand. In the dusty ruins of Mohenjo-Daro, one of the great cities of the ancient Indus Valley civilization, lie skeletons that tell a story far darker than archaeologists once believed. Discovered in the early 20th century, these remains were initially labeled as victims of a brutal massacre. Bodies sprawled in the streets, some with fractured skulls, others contorted as if frozen in agony. The scene seemed to depict sudden, violent death, and for decades scholars assumed invading armies had brought this sophisticated city to its knees around 1900 BCE. But time has a way of unraveling the simplest explanations, and today these bones whisper a far more complex and unsettling tale. New research suggests these skeletons may not be war victims at all. For one thing, there's no evidence of widespread weapon trauma or defensive wounds. Instead, the bodies show signs of catastrophic flooding, their positions suggesting they were caught in a sudden deluge, swept against walls, or buried under collapsing structures. Geological surveys reveal layers of silt throughout the city, hinting at repeated inundations from the nearby Indus River. Could Mohenjo-Daro's demise have been environmental rather than militaristic? The Indus Valley civilization thrived for centuries with advanced urban planning, sewage systems, grid layouts, even early dentistry, yet their cities were abandoned almost simultaneously. River shifts, monsoons, or even an earthquake-triggered tsunami could have turned their sophisticated world into a death trap overnight. Then there's the wild card radiation. A handful of fringe theorists pointing to the skeleton's unnatural blackened discoloration and vitrified bricks found at the site speculate about an ancient nuclear event. The idea stems from Hindu epics like the Mahabharata, which describe celestial weapons with effects eerily resembling atomic blasts, burning without fuel and leaving victims hairless and nails fallen. Mainstream science dismisses this outright. No isotopes or blast patterns supported, but the theory persists in corners of the internet, fueled by the eerie absence of clear explanations. Perhaps the most plausible and tragic explanation lies in disease. Mass graves with no signs of violence often point to epidemics. Analysis of the skeletons reveals high concentrations of arsenic in the bones, possibly from contaminated water. Combine that with overcrowding and climate stress, and Mohenjo-Daro could have succumbed to a perfect storm of environmental decay and virulent illness. What makes these skeletons truly haunting isn't just their mystery, it's the echoes of our own fragility. A civilization that mastered urban living, trade, and artistry vanished almost without a trace, its end debated centuries later. Were they victims of war, water, or something we haven't even considered? The bones don't lie, but their story shifts with every new lens we apply. And that's the warning they carry. Even the mightiest cities are just one disaster away from becoming tomorrow's skeletons. High in the mist-shrouded mountains of China's Bayan-Ha Range, a 1938 archaeological expedition stumbled upon a find that would ignite one of history's most persistent alien conspiracy theories. Hidden within a network of caves lay hundreds of peculiar stone discs, each roughly the size of a vinyl record, with a perfect hole at the center and spiral grooves radiating outward like phonograph tracks. But what made these Dropa stones truly extraordinary were the microscopic hieroglyphs etched along their grooves, a script so tiny it seemed impossible to carve with primitive tools. When researchers allegedly translated the markings, the message sent chills down spines. The discs supposedly told of a spacecraft crashing there 12,000 years ago, its stranded passengers small, large-headed beings called the Dropa, struggling to survive in the harsh terrain. Mainstream archaeology dismisses the stones as an elaborate hoax, pointing to glaring inconsistencies. No credible photographs of the original discs exist, and the only known samples in museums have been debunked as ceremonial by discs from Neolithic cultures, their grooves nothing more than natural weathering patterns. The most damning evidence, the Russian scientist who first claimed to translate the script, Tsumam Nui, can't be verified in any academic records, and the Chinese Academy of Sciences denies ever studying the stones. Skeptics argue the entire story was concocted in the 1960s by a Soviet tabloid journalist hungry for sensational headlines, later amplified by Erich von Däniken's Chariots of the Gods. Yet the legend refuses to die. Proponents counter that government suppression explains the lack of physical evidence, citing China's historical secrecy around archaeological finds. They highlight anomalous details like nomadic tribes in the region recounting ancestral stories of small, yellow-faced people who came from the clouds, or the mysterious Dropa tribe, whose members allegedly had unusually large eyes and sparse body hair, though no verified photographs or DNA evidence exist. Even the disk's composition fuels debate. Some tests reportedly revealed high cobalt and nickel content, metals common in meteorites or spacecraft alloys. The controversy crystallizes a timeless dilemma. Where does cultural memory end and myth begin? Ancient astronaut theorists see the Dropa stones as proof of prehistoric contact, while scientists view them as a cautionary tale about confirmation bias. But perhaps the real mystery isn't extraterrestrial. It's why humanity so desperately wants to believe in celestial visitors, stitching star-born narratives onto the fabric of our past. Whether hoax or history, the discs serve as a mirror, reflecting not ancient aliens, but our own cosmic loneliness. While Peru's Nazca Lines steal most of the spotlight, Bolivia's Sajama Lines hide in plain sight. A sprawling, ancient web of over 16,000 kilometers of perfectly straight paths etched into the high-altitude desert. To put that into perspective, if you stretch them end to end, they'd cross the entire United States from New York to Los Angeles and then some. But unlike Nazca's flamboyant animal figures, these lines are starkly geometric, thousands of razor-straight tracks radiating outward from sacred mountains like spokes on a colossal wheel, some running uninterrupted for 20 kilometers without deviating even a meter. So who carved this labyrinth into the earth, and why? The sheer scale suggests coordination beyond a single village or tribe. Local Aymara people, descendants of the region's pre-Inca cultures, speak of ancient gods who walked these paths, their footsteps burning lines into the ground. Archaeologists offer more earthly theories. One compelling idea casts the lines as pilgrimage routes, guiding devotees to sacred peaks like Nevado Sajama, Bolivia's tallest mountain. Others propose they were astronomical markers, aligned with solstice sunrises or the rising of key stars critical for timing planting cycles in this harsh landscape where a missed harvest meant starvation. But the most tantalizing theory, trade. The lines converge near ancient salt flats and obsidian deposits, hinting at a network connecting distant communities long before the Inca built their famed road system. Imagine merchants walking these tracks, their silhouettes tracing paths worn smooth by generations of feet, carrying goods from the Amazon lowlands to the Pacific coast. Yet mysteries linger. Ground surveys reveal nowhere patterns from heavy foot traffic, and some lines climb slopes so steep they seem impractical for commerce. Then there's the eerie precision. Without theodolites or compasses, how did ancient surveyors maintain such flawless straightness over miles? Experiments show that aligned posts or smoke signals could achieve short stretches, but maintaining alignment across valleys and ridges would require knowledge of advanced geometry, unless, as some researchers speculate, the lines themselves were the tools, acting as giant sightlines to measure distances or predict celestial events. Today, the Sajama Lines survive as a ghostly palimpsest. Over centuries, wind and erosion have blurred many paths, while modern roads slice carelessly through others. Unlike Nazca, there's no flight tour to showcase their grandeur. To grasp their scale, you'd need satellite eyes. Perhaps that was the point, not art for the sky, but a language for the earth, written in lines only those who walked them could fully read. While theories multiply, one truth remains. This isn't just a network of trails. It's the shadow of a civilization that mapped its world not with ink, but with footsteps that still whisper across the Altiplano, waiting for us to decipher their purpose. From the celestial precision of the Great Pyramids' shafts to the eerie, forgotten brilliance of the Antikythera Mechanism, one thread ties these 25 ancient wonders together. They refuse to fit neatly into the story we've written about our past. Each one stands as a testament to cultures that grasped astronomical cycles we've only recently decoded, engineered monuments with tools we can't replicate, and left behind clues that still stump our brightest minds. Whether it's the acoustic mastery of the Longyu Caves or the star-aligned paths of Karnak, these aren't just relics, they're challenges. They whisper that history might be deeper, stranger, and far more interconnected than our textbooks dare suggest. What's most thrilling isn't just the how behind these marvels, but the why. Why would the Nazca carve desert spanning glyphs only visible from the air? Why would the Inca polish 100-ton stones to a mirror finish, or the builders of Göbekli Tepe bury their masterpiece intact? These choices hint at worldviews where art, science, and spirituality weren't separate disciplines, but a single, urgent language, one we're still struggling to translate. The more we uncover, the clearer it becomes. Ancient cultures weren't primitive. They were different, operating with priorities and knowledge that might have taken millennia to develop and vanish overnight. Here's the real takeaway. These mysteries aren't locked in the past. Every new scan of the Great Pyramid's hidden chambers, every fresh dive at Yonaguni, even the race to decode the Voynich Manuscript, they prove that history is alive, rewriting itself with each discovery. And you don't need a degree to join the hunt. Start with the Dropa stones controversy or the Tarim mummies genetic puzzles. Dive into the debates around the Dendera light or the Baghdad batteries. The evidence is out there, waiting for someone to connect the dots in a way no one else has. So what's your favorite enigma, the one that keeps you up at night, flipping between tabs and falling down rabbit holes? Drop it in the comments, we're all detectives here. And if you're hungry for more ancient riddles, hit that subscribe button, because the past isn't finished surprising us, and neither are we. The next revelation might be just one excavation, one scan, or one brilliant viewer's insight away. Until then, keep questioning, keep digging, and remember, sometimes the most profound answers begin with a single impossible